Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning to all students here and all the online students, also to the students who will be joining in later at the e-learning course. Welcome to all of you. I hope all of you all are doing okay. Yeah, all right. You can hear me? Online students, I hope you can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes, it's audible.
Okay, all right. Okay, great. Okay, so a quick recap about what we completed last week. What did we complete last week? Loud and confident. What did we complete last week?
We saw the stages, different stages of how to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We looked at the different stages, right? So we did exploration the previous class, and last class we did the other two of understanding and action, right? So we focused on some of those on what are the stages in counseling. How does generally a counseling session move? What do you do in each stage? Okay, like we spoke about, they're not all watertight compartments. You may need to go back and forth. Nevertheless, uh, um, you form that kind of a process where the counselee begins to understand where they are at, what's the problem, what are the thoughts towards the problem, what are the feelings towards it. You move them to a place of the place of exploration is what you do. Then you move them to a place of understanding where they personalize the problem, formulate goals, and then that's when you get to move them into action. And we did that beautiful role play last time with Prem helping us. Okay. All right. Before we move in, there are a couple of questions I think that was put on the stream, and I'm just. Sorry, my apologies. Okay, we're back. Yeah. So just a couple of questions that were there that I thought we need to address. So there was a question about when we did the ABCDE model. I think Natasha brought up that question. So she asked if the presumption is that the thoughts that is being presented there at the level of beliefs, the B, right? The B, is it generally negative? Is what was the question that she brought about. The A, B, C, D, E, the B is there is a certain, A is the certain situation or the antecedent that happens, and B is the beliefs that come as a result of the situation. So her question was, are we presuming that generally these thoughts are negative? So why is it that we really need to look at that is if there is a problem in the subsequent feeling and the subsequent behavior, right? If there is a concern or an issue in the subsequent feeling or the behavior, we presume that the B is negative, the belief is negative, that is not helping the person to move forward or helping the person in the situation. So yes, we are making that kind of a presumption that uh, the the belief is not something that is helpful for the counseling. All right. If it were helpful, they would probably not be in that situation of a difficulty, right? So then that model is presupposing that any situation that is creating negative kind of thoughts is what may be creating a negative feeling or a negative behavior. And that's why we have to go back into understanding the beliefs of the individual in that specific incident. Natasha, I hope I clarified that question. I will go to your next question also. Did I clarify that question?
Yes, Jean, thank you.
All right. Then her second question was, what is the difference between thought and feeling? What is the difference between thought and feeling? All right. Anyone would like to answer that? What is the difference between thoughts and feeling? Okay, so Vimal said from thoughts is what feelings start. Okay, but what's the difference? Okay, so right, thoughts is all in the way that we think. Right now, for example, today in Bangalore, I think that it's extremely. I'm thinking it is very hot, right? And however, there is a feeling that goes with it because it's hot. It's very very uncomfortable. All right. So everything you have a certain perception about, a certain way that you understand the world around. Okay. So thoughts is what you're thinking, and feeling or emotions is what you feel towards that. So thoughts are generally maybe statements or uh, things that come to your mind about something, but feelings is the way that you engage with that thought. Like, for example, I see someone I really love. Okay, I'm seeing, let's say, maybe it's my child who comes. The thought is, oh, I'm so glad to see my child, right? And what's the feeling? Maybe it's a feeling of excitement or a feeling of um, happiness. Yes. Okay. Or let's say it's someone, maybe I don't like cockroaches. I see a cockroach and the thought that comes is, oh, there are cockroaches in my house. And what's the feeling? Disgust, right? Maybe rage. So these are they are different in its nature. Thoughts come as a result of maybe some of your experiences, right? Maybe I don't like cockroaches because I've seen a lot of it when I was young, right? Or it's crawled on me and I don't like that feeling. Maybe that's what creates the thought. The feeling comes from a result of what I have thought about the certain situation. Is that clear? Yeah, Natasha, I hope I clarified that.
Yeah, yes. Because I
Okay.
was thinking, um, I think my father hates me. I think, so I was wondering how to differentiate between that.
Yeah. So we'll take an example of that. I think he hates me is a belief, is a thought,
Yeah.
right? And so out of that belief will come the emotion, which is maybe avoidance. No, avoidance is a behavior. Maybe it is fear, or maybe it is hate, or maybe it is yeah, fear, right? Which will lead you to your behavior, which is either avoidance or which is aggression.
So we can say they are like emotions.
No, your thoughts generally is what is your perception towards something.
Yeah. And
That's
feelings are emotions,
that
which,
arise as a result of that perception.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So very. So if you look at it, look at mostly anything. You're like, for example, suppose you find a new thing, something that has never been invented, and you see a new thing. I'm trying to understand what that would be. Because I don't know what a new thing is. So let's say not a mobile phone, but another device was created. Okay, let's say a device was created which will take me from my place, from Bible College to my home in 1 minute. Okay, suppose there was a device like that, right? That's the first time you're seeing something like this. Now, what do you think about it? You
You
still
think
have
it's
this.
a, yeah, you think it's a fantastic invention.
Yeah, you think it's a fantastic invention, or you still don't know because you've not experienced it, right?
Okay.
So you don't have a specific emotion to it as yet. But it's when you, let's say, you experience it, you're sitting in it and you go there, and then you say, wow, you know,
Mhm.
this is wonderful. So your experience of a certain situation or event or a new thing is what really creates that emotion. So what
Mhm.
happens is, every time I see this new machine the next time, there is that positive emotion because my experience the first time was very positive,
Okay.
right? Or on the flip side, suppose that machine was there and I said, and I tried it and it didn't work. I was here only for the next 10 hours. So every time I see that machine, I'll say, oh no, that's not going to work at all. No matter if someone else comes and tells me. Why? Because have an experience of it.
Okay.
You got that?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we were looking at we said we looked at the process of the entire counseling. What happens? What are the different stages that happens in counseling? And if you remember, I showed you all a diagram last time, which I will open again. Are you all able to see it? You all don't have phones? What happened? Are you? Okay. All right. Okay. I am stumped. I don't know what to do. Okay. Anyway, so maybe if you all remember the diagram that I showed you all, I think, just Biju has it. So maybe if whoever can look into it will be helpful. All right. So if you look uh, at the diagram, uh, you remember we said that on one hand, there is what helps in counseling is the attitudes of a counselor. You remember the 3 attitudes of the counselor? Empathy, unconditional positive regard, and genuineness. Yes? So a counselor comes with those attitudes, and it is through the skills of the counselor that the counselee goes through the stages of counseling or the learning process. You remember that, right? So I did mention that when the counselor attends is when the counselee gets involved. When the counselee gets involved, the next skill that the counselor uses is responding, and thereby the counselee moves into a place of exploring the problem. When the counselee is in a place of exploration, the counselor uses the skill of personalizing. You all remember that? Yeah. And when the counselor personalizes the problem, the counselee gets into a place of understanding. And from there, the counselor begins to initiate and the counselee starts to act. You remember that, right? So we did that entire learning process of the counselee. Now we are going to look at the skills. We're going to look at the counselor skills. What are the skills that the counselor needs in order to help the counselee move from this different stages, from this place of exploration to understanding to action? Okay? All right. I'm sorry you all don't have your thing. Okay. So today we're going to be looking at the first skill, which is the skill of attending. And that's on page, if you'd want to follow, it's on page 30. It's on page 30. Okay? Yeah. So before we get into the skill of attending, some of these specific skills that the counselor uses is what we call as micro skills. Okay? The skills that the counselor uses in order to engage the counselee in a conversation is what we call as micro skills. Okay? So it helps the counselee to move from one stage into another. It's what really helps. It's like a tool that the counselor has in order to help them move from one stage to another. And that's why learning skills is very important in counseling. It's just not about talking to somebody, but it's about mastering some of the skills in counseling that actually is very effective in helping them move from one stage to another. Okay, so okay, we'll move into, okay, so what is, basically let's look at these micro skills and what do they actually mean. Let's look at an example. Okay, suppose the engine of your car has stopped. Okay, what would you need to do to get it working again? Okay, repair, yeah, but what do you need to do? Huh? Yes, you need tools. Okay, what else you need? You need skill, and you need a mechanic. Wonderful, great. So you need someone who has the right tools, who has the right skill. Is that right? Okay, so micro skills is something very, very it's what it's very similar to actually looking at a broken car. Okay, it's so when people coming to you, they're coming to you. I know this may not be the right terms to use, but in a way it's like coming to repair. They're coming for help, they're coming for repair. And so you are the mechanic. You need to have certain tools, you need to have certain skills. Okay, so micro skills are those foundational skills that is needed in order for a counseling relationship to be effective. Those are what is called as micro skills. Those are the skills they need. They are also the tools that the counselor needs, on which the outcome of your counseling depends. When you use the right tools, the outcome, the repair is much better. All right, like for example, if you need to repair a car, if you bring a knife and a coconut grater, it doesn't help, right? You need the right tools, right? So similarly, there are certain tools, and it is also the counselor's attitudes, or the way the person, the certain conditions that the counselor themselves brings. Now, what do I mean by those conditions is, you remember in the first class, we spoke about principles in counseling, right? That's what the condition is. Now, if I come into a counseling room being very judgmental, or saying, oh, okay, I know this person, I've heard this and this history about the person. If I come with a judgmental attitude, my help towards them to bring about positive change will be limited, or will be really bad, right? So even the mechanic has to come with a sense of an attitude. Like, if you go to a car repair, to a workshop, and your mechanic says, and I don't know what to do, right? Or I don't have any hope of this car. You don't have, whether he has the skill or the tools, if he doesn't have a heart or a willingness to help you, will anything happen? Are you here with me? Right? So similarly, that's what tools is. That's what micro skills is. It's someone who should have a good attitude to bring about that change, those skills and those tools. So what we are learning are the skills that are needed. Okay? So what we're looking at today is the skill of attending. Okay, and there are different kinds of skills, which again, but today we are going to do attending skills. All right. So the skills of attending. What do you mean by the word attending? What are you all doing right now? You all are attending. You all are attending. Okay. So to attend, what all are you all doing? Hopefully,
Have patience, listen. Have
listen,
patience, listen.
have
Try
patience,
to understand.
try to understand. Okay. What else?
Take
Participate.
notes.
Paying attention, focusing. Okay.
Take notes. Take notes.
Taking notes. Okay. Very good.
Participate.
To observe. Very good. To participate. Yes. Yeah. Anything else? To understand, not to look at your phone. That's why your phones have all been given away. Right? So all of this and more is what attending is. Right? Now, how do I see that you all are attending? How am I able
When
to
we
see that you're
respond,
attending?
when we respond,
Interaction.
when we
When you
respond,
respond, when you're looking at me, when you're not yawning, right? Yeah, so that's how I know that, okay, my class is paying attention. That's how I know who's paying attention and who's not paying attention also. When you're not looking blankly. So these are certain ways that I know that you are attending. Okay. Now, why is attending so important in counseling? Why is it important?
To know the
if we
basic
don't
thought of
understand
person.
the counsel,
Sorry, one at a time. Okay, Vimal said for better communication. Lucy, what did you say? Say that again.
To know the thoughts of and feelings of a person, what
To
he's
know
undergoing.
to know the thoughts and the feelings of a person. Okay. All right.
if we don't understand the person, how will we help him?
Okay. So attending, yes, when you're understanding the person, it's to help them. I know we're going into a lot more deeper things, but let's look at basic attention.
To have good relationship means
To build excellent. Yes, it is actually to build a good rapport. You know the meaning of rapport? Rapport is a good connection. A good connection is what a rapport is. rapport is you're building a good connection, right? Think of the first time you came to Bible college. Who did you meet first? You met Pastor Nancy. Okay, all right. Now, what connected you to Pastor Nancy? Oh, no. No, when you met her in person, what connected? When I mean is, what made you say that, okay, Pastor Nancy, I can go talk to Pastor Nancy? What are some of the things that made you feel that you could go talk to Pastor Nancy or anybody, anyone for that matter?
Approachable, soft spoken.
Okay, good. Because she showed that she was approachable. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
she's principal, you have to, but she was approachable. How did you know she was approachable? Huh?
Welcoming smile,
Yeah, she
gesture.
smiled, she welcomed, she listened to you, she looked at you, isn't it? So then you kind of feel that there is a connection, right? You may have also met people who you didn't felt very scared to connect to. Why? What did you see in them that made it hard for you to connect to them? Okay, how did you know that? Through their body language, okay. Maybe they didn't even turn their face against you, they looked off that side. Okay, then
No eye contact.
no eye contact. But is that you, Akhil?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Voice sounded familiar. All right. No eye contact. What did you say, Diksha? The way of speaking, the tone, the volume. Yeah. Right. So it is so important to create, not just to create, but to express to the person that you are meeting that you are interested in them. So I remember when we were in college, we used to have our classroom was like some 90 students. So our teacher always knew us by numbers, not by names. So we never could approach the person because she knew us by numbers, right? And not by names. So that in itself shows how distant it is, right? And that's exactly why this place of attending, where your counselee needs to know that you are interested in them as people. When I mean by interested, what I mean is you are concerned and you are seeing them as important people of dignity. Do you remember the principle of acceptance, that you treat them and you accept them for whoever they are? All right. So the purpose of attending is to show them that you are interested in them as people and you are interested in what is being said. Okay, clear? So that's the purpose. So when is it used? The skill of attending should be used throughout counseling. It's not just at the first time that they come into the room that you are attending, but throughout your engagement with them. Okay, like for example, think of this. If I came to class, only the first 2 classes I looked at your faces. After that on, I kept looking at the system, didn't look at you all. You know, it doesn't build that connection, right? So it is very important through the stages of counseling, but especially in the beginning, because your first impression is the best impression, right? So very often, counselees make a decision if they want to meet the same counselor within the first session, within the first 5-10 minutes. They've made a judgment because of how a counselor has attended to them. Okay? So what does it mean? It means to pay attention to what the counselee is saying and doing. Okay? It is paying attention to what the counselee is saying and doing. Okay, you all have your notes, right? You all are following through with the notes? Okay, I'm on page 31. 31, okay? All right, so what are the different attending skills? 3 kinds of attending. You can attend non-verbally and verbally. What is non-verbally? Even without words. You know, you can attend without words. Do you know that? How can you attend without words? Huh? Through actions, okay. Through your body language. Okay, very good. Through your body language. The way that you sit, the way that you, expressions on your face, right? All of that. Even in fact, how you dress, how you come across to them is very important. Suppose you come all sweating and with your hair all out, they will think that, okay, you come from some forest and you need some help, right? So even the way that you dress, how you present yourself is very, very important. Okay, so attending is verbally, non-verbally. Attending by listening. Okay, how do you listen? Okay, this is going to be interesting. And next is attending by observing, by observation. All right, so we look at each of this in a little bit of detail. So attending non-verbally and verbally includes a couple of things. It includes 3 V's plus 1 V. What are the V's? Visual, vocal, and verbals. Okay, visual is how you use your eyes, vocal is how you use your voice, and verbal is the words that you say. And B is for body language. Okay, so these are the 3, this is what it includes. So let's look at visuals. Visuals is, what do you mean by visual? Seeing, yeah. So when someone's talking to you, what do? You have to look at them, have a good eye contact. If you don't have eye contact, what would it mean? Sorry? Okay, not paying attention. What else can not, when someone is looking at you and talking to you and you're not looking and you're looking here and there, what all could it mean?
Not interested.
Not interested. Okay. Not respecting. Okay. All right. That is what I think we learned from school, no? Look into me. Why aren't you respecting me? Okay. What else? What else does it mean?
Fear.
Yes. It could mean fear. It could mean avoidance. Generally, when you're telling a lie, can you look into the other person's eyes? So it tells you that also, Sorry? What else? Some of them have got PhD. That's what you said. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So generally when people do lie or people are afraid to meet someone eye to eye or fear or anxious, they avoid looking eye to eye. All right. Now this can happen even in counseling where people may not look at you eye to eye. All right. Now, when you're having an eye to eye contact, what does it suggest? That you are interested in them and that you want to be there and involved in whatever they are saying. Now, all because I'm saying good eye to eye contact, please don't stare at them like that. Okay? Be careful not to stare because you will frighten them, especially if you're talking to someone of the opposite sex. When you stare at them, it can make someone feel extremely uncomfortable. All right? So, you should generally have a natural break in your eye contact. And that's why when I look at you, I don't look at only one person. I keep looking at everybody else. There's a natural break in the eye contact, right? Or even when you're looking, we talk about like a triangle you look at in the face. You look from one eye to the other eye to the mouth, then eye, mouth, and maybe look away, then eye, mouth, like rather than just, being a little discreet about the way that you're looking. All right. Also, when you're talking, it's good to take a break from eye contact so that you will begin to see when someone is uncomfortable. Like, for example, I know when I'm asking a question and I'm waiting for you to answer, you're like getting all uncomfortable. You look this side, look that side, right? Shows discomfort, right? So even in counseling, we've got to be careful of how you do that. Yeah. So while listening, do the triangle, look in eye from eye to the mouth. Okay. Be sensitive of what culture they may be coming from. Because in certain cultures, when you keep looking at someone, it can be offensive, right? So you've got to also be careful about how they feel when they are having that eye-to-eye contact. Okay? Clear? Now, this is not only in counseling. This is good people skills. Even when you all are talking to each other, practice these things. Practice your visual contact because it really helps.
But
Yes.
what if the counselee is looking down and that person doesn't want to look at you? He's looking all over the place or fidgety.
Okay. So that's fine because remember, when you are attending, you're also attending by observation. So when the person is not looking at you or looking down or looking sideways, you're actually understanding something through that action of theirs, right? So let's suppose a counselee is there and you're building a conversation and they're saying, maybe you're asking them how they're feeling, and they're saying, I'm quite happy. All right, they're saying, I'm quite happy. But through their body language, you notice that they're not keeping eye to eye contact. They're looking down, they're looking away, they're fidgeting. Is it congruent? Does it look as if they're happy?
No.
No, right? So you've observed something. And it's not that you have to pinpoint that, but that'll come in your next skill, which is the skill of responding. So I may say something like, okay, I'm glad to hear that you're happy, but something makes me sense that you're a little restless today. Is that true? So I've picked up on something and I have responded to that, because it becomes like an opening line for your counselee to talk about maybe that, because you have observed something and you have brought it up, right? Yes, I have to be sensitive in the way. I can't say, what you're saying, you're happy, you're fidgeting, you look so fearful. If I say that, naturally, he will get up and run. Right? But then if I were to say, I'm glad to hear that you're happy, it sounds great. But I'm sensing that you feel a little restless right now. Or is that true? I kind of observe that. Is that true? Right? So that can be like an opening for the person to actually share something deeper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? All right. So eye contact. Is that clear? Okay. Next is vocals. Vocals is what? Your voice. Your voice. Okay? Now, you don't have to have a very sweet, voice to be a counselor. You don't have to have that. But the way that you use your volume, your pitch, your tone really matters. If I'm going to talk to my counselor like I talk to my children, get up, yeah, right? It's going to jar everyone, right? So I've got to be aware of who I'm talking to, right? So then maybe the way that I talk, I'll say, it's nice to see you today. Would you like to take a seat? How have you been? Did you have trouble coming here? So, there is some kind of a modulation in my voice. It's probably sounding a little sweet, right? Sounding welcoming, right? So how you even modulate your voice really matters even in counseling, okay? Because sometimes if you've been to doctors, there are some very good doctors, but there are sometimes where doctors, they'll say, yeah, what? That's what they'll say, right? What? There's nothing more. They're saying, good morning, why don't you have a seat? A smile on the face. You feel immediately connected with them, right? But so really paying attention to some of those things is very important. This is what is called as attending. Like, for example, when you are meeting an authority, let's say you're meeting a teacher, your voice tends to become a lot more sweeter and softer and kinder. No? Correct, no? So similarly. All right? Sorry? Policemen. Yeah, the policemen, how they talk. Yeah. Okay. So remember, the way that you're talking or the voice that you use really conveys a certain emotion. Doesn't it? So if I'm going to say, students, today I have put an assignment. I want all of you to complete it. What emotion does it sound like? Huh? What? Order? Is that what you said? You said order? Okay. So stern, very firm. Yeah? Or I'm saying, students, today I put this up. Please don't forget to do it, right? Make sure that all of you do it. So does that sound different? Yeah. So how you're using your tone of voice really conveys what your emotion is. And it's really important in counseling because it can all have an effect on how you're going to get a response from the other person. Okay? Now, silence also can be a very, very important tool. Understood? What? So the power of silence when you're talking to a counselor, right? So let's say I have a counselee with me, and I'm probably bringing up and saying, "Nice to have you here. May I understand what's brought you here?" You've asked that question, and they're not saying anything. Being silent for some time actually helps. Why?
You make the other person to open up more.
Yeah, see, just now I kept silent and someone had to say, I better say something, otherwise it's so silent. So Akhil said that it helps the other person open up more. Correct. It actually, when I'm being silent, I'm actually giving the other person the time and the space and the freedom to talk in their own pace. But then it's also a push for them to say something. All right? So silence also sometimes is a very powerful tool. You don't always have to have something to say. It's fine to be in that moment when either, let's say, they're expressing something, maybe they're talking and suddenly they feel sad and they're crying. It's okay to be silent at that time and allow them to cry. Okay, so silence also can be a very powerful tool. Then verbal underlining, which is you are giving some emphasis to certain words. So maybe I'm going to say, I want to say, you seem to be really sad. on what you expressed today. Okay. So I can say it, you seem to be really sad on what you expressed today. I can say that. Or I can say, you seem to be really sad on what you've expressed today. So what does that mean? I've actually put some emphasis on some words that actually stands out. It's like a highlighter. When you highlight something, you want something to stand out, no? So it's like a highlighter when you are using some verbal underlining. All right? Are you all here? Or are we all silently attending? Yes. Okay. Next is verbals. Your verbals is your tracking. Your verbal tracking is actually when you follow your counselee stories. All right. So for example, they're saying something and they're actually doing the leading, and you are in simple terms just following what they are saying. I'm just trying to get the example. Just give me a minute. Okay. So here is where, let's say the counselee is telling you a story. All right. When I mean the story is their own problem or their own story. It is to help to stay on the topic that they have started with. Like, for example, they're saying something about their home. All right. They're saying, in my home, there is my father, there's my mother, there's my brothers. We're a very unhappy family. Okay. They've said this. If you're verbally tracking, what should your next question be? I said, I have my father, my mother, and my brothers, and we've been a very unhappy family. If you're verbally tracking, what should your next question be? Verbally tracking is staying with the story of the counseling.
What makes you unhappy?
Okay, that's one. Anything else? I just want to know if you'll understand what I'm asking. That's why I'm waiting. I'm in silence waiting.
Can we ask him to tell more about your family?
Yes. Yes. Anything else? Say.
In the family.
Is there any problem in the family? Okay, so generally what it is not to move away from that point that your counselor is talking about till they are ready to move. Okay, so you may ask, you said you're unhappy, would you like to tell me more? Or, okay, you're a family of 5. What made it a home of unhappiness? Okay, what was some of the concerns that were there, right? Rather than saying, okay, tell me a little bit about your work. So what's happening? You've jumped from one topic to another without really helping the counselee to really talk about that one specific topic. Okay, so that's what verbal tracking is. So in a counseling session, who should do most of the talking? Yeah. So generally, the counselor should be doing at least 80 to 90% of the talking. And your inputs should be less than 10%. Okay? Right? So no pressure. But if you need to get them to talk, what should you do?
Ask questions.
Yes, you have to ask right questions. Right? You have to engage them in questions. But again, which we will learn next time, it shouldn't be a Q&A session. Like how you go to a police station, what will it be?
Interrogation.
It's an interrogation. This is not an interrogation. Right? Where, okay, 10 questions I have, you give me 10 answers, okay, equals total 10 out of 10. That's not what it is. But The skills in counseling is, yes, you do ask questions, but it should be interjected with other skills, like the skill of responding, which is what we learn next time. It should be interjected with questions. Otherwise, it will look like a police station. I'm asking you, okay, where's your father? What's your mother doing? What's your brothers doing? You're an unhappy family. What's the problem? How many times did you fight? How many times did you go to the hospital after fight? It will be like a interrogation. But then in between, there definitely needs to be other skills of responding, which is what we will look into later. Okay? Yeah. So resist the urge to ask too many questions. It has to, it's like, when you eat, if you've made a cake, if you've had those layered cakes, what comes in between? Cream. Without that, how is the cake? Very plain, right? So there has to be the cream in between for the counseling session to feel complete and whole. All right. So being careful of not asking too many questions. Okay. So there are certain things that you call as encouragers. So when they're telling you a story, sometimes counseling can tell you a story through the entire session. They start, they will end only when that 1 hour is over. Okay? So what are you going to do there? Huh? Keep on listening. Tell me honestly, for 1 hour you'll be able to listen? How many times when I'm talking only you're not listening? Right? To listen for that 1 hour is going to be difficult. And that is why you use some of these things. And one of them is what we called as an encourager. Uh-huh. Oh, is it? Really? Okay. Oh, that sounds hard. What, John? Share the joke. Hallelujah. It depends on what they're saying. You can say hallelujah. Right? Okay. So whatever they're saying, you add in these things called as minimal encouragement, because it actually makes you feel that the other person is really listening. Suppose I don't say a word in between, you say, I've had sometimes, when you're not saying something, counselor, you say, ma'am, are you listening? You hearing? You understand what I'm saying? Because that's the feedback. They want to know feedback, whether you are paying attention to them or not. All right. So that's what we call as the minimal encouragers, where you're helping yourself focus and you're also giving them the space to keep talking. Okay. Done.
So if the conversation is crossing 1 hour, how do we tell them in a polite way? Shall we continue the next session or something in a way, pleasing
Okay.
to them?
So excellent. Now let me hear from all the students here. You heard the question? If the conversation is going for more than 1 hour, how can we politely tell them to bas karo? Break ke baad. Okay. How do you say it? Now think. It's easy for me to say and then you say, okay. But when you all think only, I'll say, okay, this is a way. Sorry to interrupt you. Okay. We'll continue later. Awesome. Okay. Okay. So these are some of the suggestions. Our session time is closed. Sorry to interrupt you. We'll continue later.
I feel you need some more time to just get over this,
Okay.
and we will surely meet uh, again shortly,
Okay.
so that you don't make that person feel offended that they have a time limit and a time bound to express everything, and then just make them feel like, okay, since your time is up, and just showing them the door.
Right.
That would not feel them welcomed.
Excellent. Wonderful. Yeah. Anything else? Vimal, you were saying something.
We can say, I understand your things, and the other things we'll discuss next time.
Okay, I understand what all you've said. Maybe next time we will talk about these very many things. Okay. Anything else? So remember, even you're right that you can't keep going on and on, right? It is true. You can't keep going because even you have a limit of how much you can listen. So, but at the end of a session, it shouldn't look like, when you're going on the road, suddenly you break, right? It doesn't feel like a comfortable pause, right? So you need when the story is going like that, you can't just suddenly drop them down like that. It has to be at a slower pace. So some of the things that you can do is even before the session, say we have 1 hour's time that we can talk. All right. So you're preparing them then and there. Maybe when you're around 50 minutes, right, getting closer, and where you have, maybe you're asking a question, you can bring up a rap and say, okay, you've shared about this, I hear this and that's difficult. We have only maybe around 10 more minutes, but I want to ask you this one last question. So again, there is slowly the acceleration is coming down. Okay. And then when you're coming to the end, you can say, you've discussed these many things, and this is 1, 2, 3 things we've understood together, we've observed together. Can we look at this the next time when we meet? All right. And then usually my wrap-up question is, what did you learn about yourself today as we come to a close? Because that helps them to reflect a little bit more and come to an end. Okay? All right. Okay, great. So we'll stop for a break and we'll come back in 10 minutes.